The space station called Eternal Accord floated in the darkness between stars. It was the largest structure ever built by the Galactic Council. 47 alien species had worked together to create it. They believed it was the center of the universe. They believed nothing could threaten them here. They were wrong. Kang Taeho stood at the window of his small ship. Watching the station grow larger, he was a man of average height, with gray hair at his temples and calm eyes that seemed to look through things rather than at them. He wore a simple gray suit with no decorations, no medals, no weapons that anyone could see. "Sir, we are being scanned," said Lieutenant Yuna from the pilot seat. She was young, barely 30, with short black hair and quick fingers that danced across the controls. "They are checking for weapons. Let them look," Taeho said quietly. "They will find nothing." The ship, named Silent Passage, was small and plain. It looked like something a minor official would use. This was intentional. Everything about Kang Taeho was intentional. The docking bay of Eternal Accord was massive. Hundreds of alien ships filled the space. Some were beautiful, covered in gold and silver. Others were rough and practical, built for war. Taeho's little ship looked like a toy among giants. A group of soldiers waited for him at the airlock. They were Vorath, a species that looked like tall insects with forearms and hard shells covering their bodies. Their leader stepped forward and looked down at Taeho with obvious disgust. "Human," the soldier said. "You will follow us. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not touch anything. You are here because the council allows it. Remember your place." Taeho smiled politely. "Of course. Thank you for the warm welcome." Yuna walked behind him, her eyes recording everything through hidden lenses. She sent data back to the ship automatically. Somewhere far away, in the cold darkness of space, other humans were watching. The council chamber was enormous. It was built like a stadium, with seats rising up in circles around a central platform. Representatives from dozens of species sat in their designated areas. Some breathed oxygen. Some breathed methane. Some did not breathe at all. The technology that kept them all alive in one room was impressive. High Counselor Viren sat at the highest point. He was a Keth, a species that looked almost like a human, but with pale blue skin and no nose. His eyes were large and black, like pools of ink. He wore robes made from the silk of a creature that no longer existed because the Keth had hunted it to extinction. "The human representative may approach," Viren announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. Taeho walked to the center platform. He stood there alone, surrounded by thousands of aliens who looked at him like he was an insect. He did not seem bothered by this. He clasped his hands behind his back and waited. "Humanity," Viren began, "has existed among the stars for only 300 years. In that time, you have spread like a disease. You have taken worlds that others wanted. You have built fleets that make our analysts nervous. You have refused to follow the rules that govern civilized species." Taeho said nothing. "The council has decided that this cannot continue," Viren said. "You will surrender 40% of your colonies. You will reduce your military fleet by 80%. You will accept council observers on all your remaining worlds. These terms are not negotiable." A murmur ran through the chamber. Many of the representatives nodded in approval. Humanity needed to be put in its place. Taeho took out a small notebook and wrote something down. Then he looked up at Viren. "I understand. I will need to send these terms to Earth for consideration. May I have 1 week to receive their response?" Viren smiled. It was not a kind smile. "You may have 3 days." "Thank you, High Counselor. Is there anything else?" "Yes. You will remain on this station until we receive humanity's answer. Your ship will stay in the docking bay. Consider yourself our guest." The way Viren said guest made it clear he meant prisoner. Taeho bowed slightly. "Your hospitality is appreciated." As Taeho was led away, a voice spoke up from the lower seats. It was Ambassador Lyra, a female of a species called the Mindori. She had soft gray fur and large eyes that held more intelligence than most gave her credit for. "High Counselor," Lyra said carefully, "I must raise a concern. Our archives contain references to humanity from before our time. The Pale Ones encountered them. The chamber went quiet. The Pale Ones were a legend. They had been the most powerful species in the galaxy thousands of years ago. Then they had simply ... disappeared. No one knew why. What do the archives say? Viarn asked, annoyed. Only one word. High Counselor. The Pale Ones left only one word regarding humanity. What word is that? Lyra hesitated. Run. Laughter filled the chamber. Viaron waved his hand dismissively. The Pale Ones were destroyed by a plague, not by primitives with stone tools. Do not waste our time with ghost stories, Ambassador. Lyra sat down, but her eyes followed Tejo as he left the chamber. She had seen something in his eyes, something that the others had missed. Behind that polite smile and calm voice, there was something very old and very dangerous. That night, Admiral Corys met with Viren in a private chamber. Corys was a military commander, a veteran of 30 campaigns. His species, the Vren, were considered the finest warriors in the Council. The human is alone, Corys said. His ship has no weapons. His assistant is just a female with a computer. If we act now, we can capture him and use him as leverage against Earth. Viarn considered this. And if Earth refuses to negotiate, then we execute him publicly. We show the galaxy that humanity is weak. We break their spirit before they can become a real threat. Viren nodded slowly. Do it. But be careful. Make it look like he resisted arrest. Corys smiled. Of course, High Counselor. In his quarters, Tejo sat alone. The room was nice enough. Comfortable bed. Good food. A window that showed the stars. It was a prison cell dressed up as a guest room. But it was still a prison cell. He heard the soldiers gathering outside his door. He heard them checking their weapons and talking in low voices. They thought they were being quiet. Te-Ho stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, his daughter Hannah was probably sleeping. She was 12 years old and loved to paint pictures of the ocean. He had promised to take her to the beach when he got home. He intended to keep that promise. The door exploded inward. 30 soldiers rushed into the room, weapons raised, shouting commands. Tejo did not turn around. He simply asked one question. Did you evacuate the civilians from this station? The squad leader paused, confused. What? Tejo turned around. He was smiling, but it was not the polite smile he had worn in the council chamber. This smile was different. This smile belonged to someone else entirely. Pity, he said softly. I was hoping to keep this clean. Then he moved. The first soldier died before he understood what was happening. One moment he was aiming his weapon at the human. The next moment, his neck was broken and he was falling to the floor. He never saw Tejo move. The second soldier fired his weapon. The energy blast hit Tejo directly in the chest. It should have burned a hole through him. Instead, something strange happened. His gray suit seemed to come alive. It absorbed the blast like water absorbing a stone. Then Tejo was moving again. He did not fight like the aliens expected. There was no shouting, no wild movements, no wasted energy. Every motion was precise. Every strike was fatal. He moved through the soldiers like a shadow moving through light. 3 seconds. 5 bodies, the squad leader screamed into his communicator. We need backup. The human is not. He is not what we thought. Tejo grabbed the communicator from the dead leader's hand. He spoke into it calmly. This is Kong Tejo, human envoy. Your soldiers attacked a diplomatic representative. Under human law, I am now authorized to defend myself with appropriate force. He paused. I want you to understand that what happens next is your choice, not mine. He dropped the communicator and continued. The hallway outside his room was long and straight, perfect for a killing ground. More soldiers came running from both directions. They were better prepared this time. They had shields and heavy weapons. It did not matter. Tejo's suit was not fabric. It was something that human scientists had spent 50 years developing in secret. Nanomachines woven into every thread. They could harden into armor or extend into blades. They could absorb energy or release it. The suit was worth more than a small planet. There were only 3 in existence. He extended his hand, and a thin blade grew from his sleeve. It was sharper than anything the aliens had ever seen. It cut through their shields like paper. It cut through their armor like air. It cut through them 30 seconds. 30 bodies. Yuna's voice came through the tiny communicator hidden in his ear. Sir, they destroyed the silent passage. Our ship is gone. We are trapped on this station. Deho did not slow down. Location: Communications Hub, Section 7. I barricaded the door, but they know where I am. Hold position. I am coming. He moved through the station like death itself. Every security team that found him became a memory. Every locked door became an open one. The aliens had built their station to be a fortress. They had not built it to keep in something like Kong Te-Ho in the command center. Admiral Corys watched the security feeds with growing horror. His hands were shaking. He had fought in 30 campaigns. He had killed enemies in personal combat. He thought he understood violence. He was wrong. What is he? Corys whispered. His aide pulled up the human's file. Most of it was blank, marked with symbols that meant classified beyond maximum clearance. Brought. But there were fragments, pieces of information that painted a terrifying picture. Sir, he is not a diplomat. He is ... The humans call him the Reaper. He was the commander of their Black Operations Division for 20 years. His confirmed kills number in the thousands. He personally led the assault on Titan 7, where human forces killed 40,000 enemy combatants in a single day. He designed the strategy for the Red Week offensive. He stopped, Corey said. His voice was barely a whisper. The aide stopped. Corey stared at the screen. On it, Te-Ho was walking calmly through a smoke-filled corridor. Bodies lay behind him. He was straightening his tie. He looked like a businessman on his way to a meeting. Why would the humans send someone like this as a diplomat? Corey's asked the aide thought about it. Then his face went pale. Sir, I think he is not here to negotiate. I think he is here to deliver a message. What message? That we cannot hurt them. That no matter what we do, they can hurt us worse. The diplomat was the message, sir. We just did not understand it until now. Corey's activated the station-wide alarm. All units. The human is to be considered extremely dangerous. Do not engage alone. I repeat, do not engage alone. Use overwhelming force. But it was too late. The human had already reached Section 7. Yuna heard the fighting outside her barricaded door. She heard the screams, and the weapons fire, and then the terrible silence that followed. She held her breath. A knock came at the door. 3 short taps. The human's signal for friendly. She opened the door. Te-Ho stood there, completely calm. His suit was damaged in a few places, showing the silver nanoweave beneath. There was alien blood on his hands, but none of it was his. Lieutenant, he said politely, are you injured? No, sir. Good. I need you to send a message. Yuna nodded and moved to the communications equipment. What message, sir? Te-Ho smiled. It was a cold smile, the smile of a man who had stopped pretending. 1 word. Send it to the following coordinates in deep space. Use encryption level 9. He gave her the coordinates. She entered them and waited. The word sir. Reciprocity. She sent the message. It traveled through space at faster-than-light speeds, bouncing through hidden relays that the Council did not know existed. It reached a point in empty space where nothing should be. But something was there, Captain. Gae-Soon sat in the command chair of the carrier, unyielding. He was a large man with a shaved head and scars on his face from old battles. He had been waiting in the darkness for 3 weeks, waiting for the signal that he hoped would never come. The signal came. Reciprocity, his communications officer reported. Authentication confirmed. It is from Commander Kang. Gae-Soon closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were hard as stone. Wake the fleet. 12 ships came alive in the darkness. They were painted black, with no lights, no markings, no identification. They did not appear in any council database. According to every intelligence agency in the galaxy, They did not exist, but they were very real. The Unyielding was the largest. It was a carrier, capable of launching hundreds of fighters. But the other ships were dangerous in different ways. The Silent Knife was a destroyer equipped with weapons that could cut through shields like they were not there. The Final Word carried missiles that did not explode, they simply erased matter from existence. The Grandmother was a cruiser named after an old Korean tradition. It was crewed entirely by volunteers who had lost family to alien attacks. They had been waiting for this day for years. Navigation, Desong said. Set course for Eternal Accord. Maximum speed. Sir, that will bring us into range of the Council fleet. Intelligence says they have 200 ships guarding the station. Daesung smiled. It was not a nice smile. Good. I was worried this would be too easy. Back on the station, Taeho looked out the window of the communications hub. Somewhere out there, help was coming. But he did not need help. He needed witnesses. Sir, Yuna said carefully. What happens now? Taeho turned to look at her. For a moment, just a moment, she saw something in his eyes. Not anger. Not hatred. Something sadder. Something tired. Now, he said quietly, they learn why the Pale Ones are extinct? He walked toward the door. Where are you going, sir? To give the Council one chance to surrender. He paused at the doorway. They will not take it. They never do. But I have to offer, it is the human way. He disappeared into the smoke-filled hallway, leaving Yuna alone with the steady beep of the communications equipment and the distant sounds of screaming. High Counselor Viarin had never felt fear before. His species had ruled 100 worlds for 1,000 years. They had crushed rebellions and conquered enemies. They had built an empire that stretched across the stars. Now, he sat in his private chamber watching security feeds, and his hands would not stop shaking. The human had killed 200 soldiers in 3 hours. 200 of the finest warriors from a dozen species? He had done it alone, without weapons, wearing nothing but a gray suit, and he was still coming. High Counselor Admiral Corys said through the communicator, I have assembled 500 elite guards. They are the best fighters in the Council. They will stop him. You said that about the first 30, Viren replied. His voice sounded weak to his own ears. And the 50 after that? And the 100 after that. This time will be different. I have ordered them to use Extinction Protocol. Heavy weapons. Area bombardment. We will destroy entire sections of the station if necessary. What about the civilians in those sections? Corys hesitated. There are acceptable losses in any conflict, High Counselor. Viarin closed his eyes. Acceptable losses. He had used those words many times himself. It was easy when the losses were not your people. When they were humans or other inferior species. Now those words tasted like ash in his mouth. Do what you must, Viren said. Stop him. But even as he gave the order, Viren knew it would not work. He had seen the way the human moved. He had seen the look in those calm eyes. This was not a man who could be stopped. This was a force of nature wearing human skin. Ambassador Lyra burst into his chamber without permission. High Counselor, you must stop this. You must negotiate. Negotiate. Viren laughed bitterly. He has killed 200 of our soldiers. We destroyed his ship. How do we negotiate after that? The humans have a concept called proportional response. If we stop now, if we apologize to a human, I would rather die. Lyra looked at him with something like pity. That can be arranged, High Counselor. But it does not have to be this way. Before Viarin could respond, alarms began screaming throughout the station. Red lights flashed. Emergency doors slammed shut. What now? Viarin demanded. The answer came through every speaker on the station. A calm human voice, speaking perfect galactic standard. This is Captain Daesun of the Human Defense Force carrier Unyielding. I am transmitting on all frequencies. Galactic Council forces have attacked and attempted to kill a human diplomatic envoy. This is an act of war. In accordance with the doctrine of reciprocity, human forces will now respond with appropriate force. Any Council vessel that powers down its weapons and surrenders will be spared. Any vessel that fights will be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to decide. This is your only warning. Bjorn rushed to the nearest window. What he saw made his heart stop. 12 human ships had appeared from nowhere. They hung in space like black shadows against the stars. They were beautiful in a terrible way, sleek and angular, designed for one purpose only. Behind them, the Council fleet was already responding. 200 warships moved into attack formation. They had overwhelming numbers. They had the finest weapons in the galaxy. They had centuries of military experience. 30 seconds passed. The humans fired. Bjorn had seen space battles before. He had watched recordings of the Council's great victories. He thought he understood what combat looked like. He was wrong. The human weapons were unlike anything he had ever seen. Beams of pure white light that cut through shields like they did not exist. Missiles that did not explode but simply erased whatever they touched from reality. Something the humans called silence rounds. That turned warships into dead metal floating in the void. The Council fleet fired back. Thousands of weapons released their fury at the human ships. The space between the fleets filled with fire and death, but the human shields held. They absorbed everything the Council threw at them. They did not crack. They did not weaken. They simply existed, like walls made of solid light. 11 minutes. That was how long it took. 200 Council warships became 200 burning wrecks. 30,000 crew members died in fire and vacuum and darkness. The greatest fleet ever assembled by the Galactic Council was destroyed in less time than it took to eat. Breakfast, and the human ships did not have a single scratch. On the station, Ambassador Lyra watched through tears. She had warned them. She had begged them to listen. Now she was watching her civilization burn. This is not war, she whispered. This is extermination. A human voice crackled through the communication channel. It was young, probably a tactical officer. No, Ambassador. This is Tuesday. Humor was cruel. But Lyra understood it. For the humans, this was nothing special. This was routine. This was what they were capable of, and they had not even tried hard. Inside the station, Tejo heard the battle through the walls. He felt the vibrations as Council ships exploded outside. He kept walking toward the Council chamber. The 500 elite guards were waiting for him. They had set up barricades and heavy weapons. They had prepared kill zones and fallback positions. They had done everything right. Tejo stopped at the entrance to the corridor. He looked at the assembled forces. Then he spoke, his voice carrying clearly through the smoke. You know what I am now? You have seen what I can do. Behind me, your fleet is burning. Your empire is falling. Everything you believed about your power was a lie. He paused. I am giving you one chance. Put down your weapons. Walk away. Go home to your families. Tell them that you survived because a human showed you mercy. The elite guards looked at each other. They were the best, the proudest, the most loyal. One by one, they lowered their weapons. Thank you, Tejo said. And he meant it. He walked through them like a ghost. No one tried to stop him. No one even looked at him. They stood with their eyes down, their pride shattered, their certainty destroyed. Admiral Corys was not with them. He had already fled, taking a small shuttle and running toward the edge of the system. He would not get far. The human ships were already hunting him. Tejo reached the Council chamber. The great doors stood before him, locked and sealed. Behind them, the leaders of the galaxy were hiding, hoping that thick metal would save them. He placed his hand on the door. His suit responded, sending nanomachines into the locks. They dismantled the security systems in seconds. The doors swung open. Inside, High Counselor Viaren sat alone on his throne. The other counselors had fled or hidden. Only Viaren remained, too proud or too afraid to run. Hume, Viaren said. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed his terror. What do you want? Tejo walked to the center of the chamber. He stood where he had stood hours before, when he had been a humble diplomat asking for time to consult his government. Hey, what do I want? Tejo repeated the question thoughtfully. I want to go home. I want to see my daughter. I want to take her to the beach and watch her build sandcastles. I want to live in peace." He looked up at Viren. "But you have made that very difficult, High Counselor." Outside the window, the stars burned with the funeral pyres of 200 ships. And still, the humans did not stop. While Tejo stood before High Counselor Viren, Ambassador Lyra ran through the burning corridors of the station. She was not running away. She was running toward something. Toward answers. The archives were deep in the station, in a section that few ever visited. Ancient records were kept there, data files so old that the species who created them no longer existed. Lyra had spent years studying these files. She knew they contained secrets that the Council preferred to forget. The door to the archive was damaged but not locked. She forced it open and stepped inside. The room was filled with holographic displays, showing information from 1,000 different civilizations. Most of it was history, trade records, scientific discoveries, art and music from species that had died out long ago. But somewhere in here was the truth about the Pale Ones. Lyra searched frantically. Her fingers danced across controls, pulling up file after file. And then she found it. The Pale Ones had been the most powerful species in the galaxy. Their empire had lasted for 50,000 years. They had technology that made the current council look like children playing with toys. They believed they were gods. Then they discovered Earth. The records were fragmentary, corrupted by time. But Lyra could piece together what happened. The Pale Ones had found humanity when humans were still primitive, still bound to their single planet, still fighting wars with weapons made of metal and fire. The Pale Ones had watched humanity for centuries, studying them like insects. They found humans to be aggressive, violent, and frighteningly adaptable. Eventually, they decided to enslave humanity, to use them as workers, as soldiers, as entertainment. They believed it would be easy. What could primitives do against the masters of the galaxy? They were wrong. The war lasted 100 years. At first, the Pale Ones won every battle. They had ships that could destroy planets. They had weapons that could kill from orbit. They had millions of soldiers bred for combat. But humans did not give up. Every time the Pale Ones thought they had one, humans found a new way to fight. They stole Pale One technology and made it better. They turned the Pale One's own weapons against them. They fought with a fury that no species had ever shown before. And then they stopped being defensive. Lyra found a recording. It was the last transmission from a Pale One commander, sent just before his fleet was destroyed. His voice was full of terror. "They do not stop. We killed 1 million of them on their homeworld. 1 million. We thought it would break them. Instead, it made them angry. They call it justice. We call it static." The recording ended. Lyra kept searching. She found more fragments. More pieces of the terrible story. The humans had not just defeated the Pale Ones, they had exterminated them. Every world, every station, every colony, every child. The Pale Ones had killed 1 million humans. The humans had responded by killing every Pale One in existence. Billions of lives erased from the galaxy. An entire species deleted from history, and then the humans had buried the records. They had hidden what they had done. They had returned to their planet and pretended to be peaceful explorers when they finally reached the stars again. But they had not forgotten. They had not forgiven. Lyra understood now. The humans were not aggressive because they wanted to conquer. They were aggressive because they were afraid. They had learned the hardest lesson in the galaxy. If you are weak, you die. If you are strong, you live. If you are the strongest, no one can ever hurt you again. She had to tell Viren. She had to make him understand in the council chamber. Tejo stood silently while Viren tried to negotiate. The High Counselor offered everything: territory, resources, slaves from other species. Complete surrender of the council's military. Tejo listened politely. Then he shook his head. "You do not understand," he said. "This is not about what you can give us. This is about what you tried to take." "What do you want then?" Viren demanded. "Tell me, and I will give it to you." Tejo reached into his pocket. Viren flinched, expecting a weapon. Instead, Tejo pulled out a small photograph. It was worn at the edges, clearly handled many times. He looked at it for a moment, then held it up for VRN to see. The photograph showed a young girl on a beach. She was maybe 12 years old, with black hair and a bright smile. She was building a sandcastle while waves crashed behind her. "Her name is Hannah," Tejo said quietly. "She is my daughter. When I left for this mission, she asked me to bring her a seashell from an alien world. She collects them. She has shells from 17 different planets." Viren stared at the photograph confused. "I do not understand." "What does this have to do with everything?" Tejo interrupted. "It has everything to do with everything." He put the photograph back in his pocket, handling it carefully. "You did not attack a diplomat today, High Counselor. You attacked a father? A brother. A son. Every human is someone's family. When you threatened me, you threatened her. When you threatened her, you threatened every human who has ever loved someone." His voice was still calm, but something had changed in his eyes. Something dangerous. "We do not fight for territory. We do not fight for resources. We do not fight for pride. We fight because somewhere on some world a little girl is waiting for her father to come home. And we will burn entire galaxies to make sure that fathers keep coming home to their children." Bjorn finally understood, and the understanding terrified him more than anything else. "You are insane," he whispered. "All of you. Your entire species is insane," perhaps Tejo agreed. "But we are also very, very good at violence. And you just gave us permission to use it." The door burst open. Ambassador Lyra ran in, breathing hard. She saw Tejo and stopped. She saw Viren on his throne and stopped. She looked between them and knew she was already too late. "The Pale Ones?" she gasped. "I found the records. I know what happened." Tejo turned to look at her. His expression softened slightly. "Yes, you understand now. You've killed them all. Billions of them. Children, civilians, everyone. It killed 1 million of us first. We offered peace 17 times. They refused every time." Tejo's voice was tired now, like a man carrying a weight that never got lighter. "We did not want to do what we did, but they gave us no choice. And we decided that we would never be in that position again. Never weak. Never helpless. Never at the mercy of species who see us as insects." Lyra stepped forward. "But we are not the Pale Ones. We did not know. The Council has never attacked humanity before today." "Before today," Tejo repeated. "That is the important part. Before today, you had done nothing. Today, you attacked a diplomatic envoy. You destroyed his ship. You tried to capture him as a hostage. You planned to execute him on galactic broadcast to show humanity its place." He turned back to Viren. "We have a phrase on Earth. Never again. It means that we will never allow ourselves to be victims again. It means that the first sign of aggression will be met with absolute force. It means that we would rather be feared than dead." "We surrender," Viren said quickly. "Completely, unconditionally. Whatever you want, it is yours." Tejo nodded slowly. "I know you surrender. You surrendered when your fleet turned to ash. You surrendered when your elite guards put down their weapons. You surrendered when you realized that everything you believed about power was a lie." He walked toward the throne, each step echoing in the empty chamber. "The question now is what comes next. Do we destroy you, like we destroyed the Pale Ones? Do we burn your worlds and erase your species from history?" Viren could not speak. He could only stare. Tejo stopped at the base of the throne. He looked up at the High Counselor with eyes that had seen more death than any living being should see. "The answer is no. We do not want to destroy you. We want something much harder. We want you to live. We want you to remember. We want you to tell every species in the galaxy what you learned today." He leaned closer. "Never threaten humanity. Never touch our ships. Never harm our children. And above all, never mistake our kindness for weakness. Because when we stop being kind, stars burn." Outside the window, the last Council warship exploded in silence. The battle was over. The new era had begun. 3 months passed. The galaxy was different now. Everyone could feel it. The old certainties were gone, placed by new truths that no one dared to question. The Galactic Council still existed, but it had changed. It met in a new station, smaller than the old one, built in neutral space where no species had territory. The great powers who had once controlled everything now sat quietly in their seats, careful not to offend. And at the highest seat, where High Counselor Viren had once ruled, there was an empty chair. No one sat there. No one dared. It was reserved for humanity's representative whenever they chose to send one. High Counselor Viren was gone. He had not been killed. The humans had decided that death was too easy for him. Instead, they had sent him home to his people with a full recording of everything that had happened. Every mistake, every arrogant word, every failed attack. His own species had stripped him of his title and sent him to live on a distant colony, forgotten and alone. Admiral Corey's had not been so lucky. The humans had caught his shuttle 3 hours after the battle. They had put him on trial for attacking a diplomatic vessel. The trial had lasted 6 days. The execution had lasted 3 seconds. It was broadcast on every channel in the galaxy. The message was clear. Attack humanity, and you will be found. You will be judged. You will be punished. But the humans had shown mercy too. The soldiers who had surrendered were returned to their homeworlds. The civilians on the station were evacuated safely. The wounded were treated by human doctors who had arrived with the fleet. Many aliens were confused by this. How could the same species that had destroyed 200 warships also work so hard to save individual lives? Ambassador Lyra thought she understood. She had spent the past 3 months studying humanity. She had read their history, watched their entertainment, learned their languages. She had tried to understand what made them different. The answer, she decided, was simple. Humans were not monsters. They were not angels. They were something in between. They were capable of incredible violence and incredible kindness, often at the same time. They could burn worlds and then weep for the dead. They could kill without hesitation and then spend hours trying to save a single child. This was why they were so dangerous. Not because they were strong, but because they were unpredictable. You never knew which version you would get, the kind father or the deadly warrior, the helpful friend or the merciless enemy. It depended entirely on how you treated them. Treat them well, and they would give you everything. Treat them badly, and they would take everything away. Lyra had been appointed as the first alien ambassador to Earth. It was a great honor and a terrifying responsibility. She would be representing all the species of the galaxy to a people who had nearly destroyed them. Her shuttle landed in a city called Seoul. It was beautiful, full of tall buildings and green parks and people moving in every direction. Children played in the streets. Families sat in restaurants. Musicians performed on corners. It looked peaceful, normal. Hard to believe these were the same people who had exterminated the Pale Ones. A human woman met her at the landing pad. She was in her 30s, with short black hair and sharp eyes. She wore a military uniform with many medals on the chest. Ambassador Lyra, the woman said, bowing slightly. Welcome to Earth. I am Commander Yuna. I believe we met briefly on Eternal Accord. Lyra remembered. The lieutenant who had been with Taeho, the one who had sent the signal that called the fleet. You have been promoted, Lyra observed. Yuna smiled. The mission had some ... complications. But yes, I was promoted. I am now head of diplomatic security. Congratulations. They walked together through the city. Yuna pointed out landmarks and explained human customs. Lyra listened carefully, trying to learn everything she could. Finally, she asked the question that had been burning in her mind for 3 months. Commander Kong Taeho. What happened to him? Yuna's smile became softer. He retired. He said he had made enough history for one lifetime. He wanted to spend time with his daughter. Where is he now? Yuna hesitated. Then she shrugged. I suppose there is no harm in telling you. He lives in a small town on the coast. He fishes and paints and takes his daughter to the beach. He seems happy. Lyra nodded slowly. The most dangerous man in the galaxy, the one they called the Reaper, was now fishing and painting. It should have been funny. Instead, it was somehow perfect. Could I meet him? Lyra asked. I can ask. But he does not like visitors. He says he has talked to enough aliens for 10 lifetimes. That evening, there was a formal dinner at the embassy. Hundreds of important humans attended. Politicians and generals and scientists and artists. They were curious about Lyra. Most of them had never seen an alien in person. Lyra gave a speech. She talked about peace and cooperation and the future. She apologized for the Council's actions. She promised that things would be different now. The humans listened politely. Some of them seemed to believe her. Others had doubt in their eyes. Trust would take time to build. Perhaps generations? After the dinner, Yuna approached her. He said yes, Yuna said quietly. Commander Kong will see you tomorrow. I will take you to him. The next morning, they flew south along the coast. The landscape changed from city to countryside to small fishing villages. Finally, they landed near a tiny house overlooking the sea. Kong Tae-ho was sitting on the porch. He looked different from the man Lyra remembered. Softer somehow. He was wearing simple clothes, not the terrible gray suit. His hair was longer, and there were paint stains on his hands. A girl sat next to him. She was 12 or 13, with her father's calm eyes and her own bright smile. She was sorting through a collection of seashells. Ambassador Tae-ho said, standing. Welcome to my home. This is my daughter, Hannah. Hannah looked up and waved. Hello? Are you the alien? Dad said you were coming. Do you like seashells? I have 73 now. Dad brought me 6 new ones from his trip. Lyra found herself smiling despite everything. I like seashells very much. On my homeworld, we have shells that sing when the wind blows through them. Hannah's eyes went wide. Really? That is so cool. Dad, can we go there someday? Tae-ho laughed. It was a warm sound, nothing like the cold voice Lyra remembered from the station. Maybe someday, little one. If the ambassador invites us, you are welcome any time, Lyra said, and she meant it. They sat on the porch and talked. Not about war or politics or the future of the galaxy, just about small things. Fishing and painting and schools and weather. Hannah showed Lyra her shell collection and explained where each one came from. Eventually, Hannah went inside to start her homework. Tae-ho and Lyra sat in silence for a while, watching the waves. Your people terrify me, Lyra said finally. Even now, even sitting here in this peaceful place, I know what you are capable of. What your species is capable of. Tae-ho nodded slowly. I understand. We terrify ourselves sometimes. Then why? Why do you have so much violence inside you? Tae-ho thought about it for a long moment. Because we love so much. The violence is not separate from the love. It comes from the same place. We kill to protect what we love. We destroy to preserve what we cherish. It is not something we are proud of. It is just something we are. He pointed to the house where Hannah was visible through the window, bent over her books. I would burn 1,000 worlds for her, without hesitation, without regret. That is the truth of humanity. We will do anything, become anything, to protect our families. Our love makes us kind, and our love makes us monsters. Lyra looked at the girl through the window. Just a child. Just an ordinary girl doing her homework. And yet, she was the reason that 200 warships had turned to ash. She was the reason that the greatest military power in the galaxy had been humbled in 11 minutes. Thank you, Lyra said quietly, for not destroying us. Tae-ho smiled. Thank the ones who surrendered. Thank the soldiers who put down their weapons. Thank everyone who chose peace when they could have chosen war. Mercy is not weakness, Ambassador. Mercy is the hardest choice of all. They sat together until the sun began to set. Then Lyra said goodbye and returned to the shuttle. As they flew away, she looked back at the tiny house by the sea. She could see Tae-ho on the porch, joined now by his daughter. They were watching the sunset together. The galaxy called him Death in a Suit, the Reaper. the most dangerous human ever born. But his daughter just called him Dad. And that, Lyra decided, was the most human thing of all. Above the earth, the carrier, unyielding, kept its silent vigil. It would stay there forever, watching the stars, ready to respond to any threat. A reminder that peace was kept by those willing to fight for it, and somewhere in the galaxy, species who had once thought themselves superior now taught their children a new set of rules. Never attack a human ship, never threaten a human world, never touch a human child, and above all, never mistake kindness for weakness, because humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the smartest. They were not the oldest, but they were the ones who had learned to love so fiercely that they would burn the universe to protect it. And that made them the most dangerous thing the stars had ever seen.